Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha with Ice Cream Fitness here, and yes, I am wearing my Legends of Aesthetic stuff that Matt Ogus gave me. But today I want to do a video for you guys that a lot of you have been waiting on because I've had a lot of questions on this topic. And that is about specifically how to train for the military and for military physical fitness tests. But hold on, let me give you guys a bicep shot first. Alright, and I want to state up front with this that my own political opinions or my opinions on conflicts around the world are completely relevant to this topic. And some people are going to go, well, why are you giving advice to guys in the military? Because I have a huge international audience. And the fact of the matter is, one, it's not just U.S. Army and U.S. military that are asking me these questions. It's from countries all over the world. Two, these military servicemen and servicewomen who are asking me for my professional opinion didn't ask me to judge them. They didn't ask me to judge what they do. They didn't ask me to judge the conflicts they're involved in around the world. They came to me for my professional opinion and to give them the best answers I possibly can based upon my knowledge of training and fitness. Now, I am actually quite familiar with the needs of military personnel, at least in the more elite forces, because one, my father was a Green Beret in Vietnam, so I know quite a bit about the training that they underwent just from talking to him growing up. And I have a cousin right now serving in U.S. Army Spec Ops as a sniper. And when you have soldiers at that level, they are basically professional athletes. They are expected to perform at the level of a professional athlete, like an NFL player, an NBA player, so they are specialized athletes with specialized needs. But the same thing applies to a lesser extent to people in other forces. And now the first question that I get asked is, how do you pass these physical fitness tests, or how do I improve my score on those? Now these vary from service to service, and they vary in the militaries of countries around the world. And they tend to include things like running as fast as you possibly can for 2 miles, so trying to get a 2-minute mile time. Or in some cases 3 miles, or they'll call it 5K, but 2 miles is pretty common, at least for U.S. forces. There'll be like endurance challenges based upon how many push-ups, sit-ups, chin-ups, things like that you can do. So those are going to be your hardest ones to deal with, and let's just look at that immediately. First of all, for those strength-based ones, the first line of defense is you need specificity of training for the sit-ups, the push-ups, and the pull-ups. And rather than me give you a protocol, what I would say is go Google. Now, you're not going to spell his name right, but you'll get the program name right. It's a guy called Pavel Tausalin, and he has something called Greasing the Groove that he wrote for Russian servicemen for their chin-ups. And it's very good. He can get somebody to a point where they can do 20 bodyweight chin-ups in a reasonable period of time using this program. The same sort of protocol that he gives you for chin-ups can apply to other bodyweight movements like sit-ups and push-ups. So use that method. It will require you to do these things every single day, pretty much 7 days a week, but it will get your endurance and strength endurance way up really fast on these movements. And you're going to be able to do a lot of them a lot more quickly if you follow his protocols, the way he breaks it down, of doing these sub-failure sets all the time. So check that out. Now, number 2, for the running, you need to basically build up your capacity to sustain almost a sprint for 2 miles. And what I would recommend you do for that is do it in intervals. And if you're going to be tested on 2 miles, never run more than 2 miles, first of all. It's a complete waste. You're building stamina that you do not need at the expense of speed, because you need speed for this. You don't need a huge amount of stamina to run 2 miles, let's be honest here. Anyone in basic shape can do that. You don't need more endurance. You need speed. And you need to be able to sustain that speed and sustain that workload. So what you want to do is do it in intervals, and what I would say is learn to sprint almost at a full sprint, but close to, just under a full sprint, a nice fast run as long as you can during your 2-mile run, and then drop down to a slow jog until you feel you've recovered. So drop to a slow jog for about 30 to 60 seconds, and then pick back up to almost a full sprint again. And do this for the entire 2 miles. And I would say run 2 miles 3 times a week. And give yourself at least 48 hours between each time. And what I would do with that from there is cut the intervals down less and less so that you can, let's say at first you're starting those jogs at 60 seconds. Over time, cut them down to 55 seconds. Cut them down to 50 seconds. cut them down to 45 seconds until you get to a point to where you're able to sustain the higher rate of speed for longer and for longer durations and a larger percentage of your 2-mile run. And you can do this until you eventually get to a point to where you can sustain a fast run for the full 2 miles at closer to the speed you were able to do originally. And so that's what I would recommend, is use it in intervals and use basically progressive workload in your intervals to get yourself up there to that speed. Now, the other point I want to talk about is, you guys know I've covered in videos before explaining in exercise science how maximum power and maximum strength carry over to everything else. And that applies here too. So the best thing you could possibly do to improve all of these other performance elements is to increase your work capacity through power training. Don't come in and do a bunch of bodybuilding work. Come in and train like a power lifter. Heavy squats, heavy deadlifts, heavy bench press, overhead press, rows, done down in the low rep range. You need to build your explosive power and your maximum strength up, because it will carry over to your work capacity on these. And if you're ever stuck in a situation to where you have to carry another wounded soldier out of a place in a hurry, if you can squat 400 pounds for 3 or 4 reps, I can promise you you're going to be able to carry somebody a lot easier and sprint with him than if you can only do 300 or if you can only do 200, because of the sheer work capacity. So it's going to put you in situations where it might be easier for you to save another life, one of your fellow soldiers, and save yourself. Now, the other factor to consider with that, when we're talking about life-saving, we know that people who lift heavy weights are generally harder to kill. This is understood. Anyone who studies exercise science knows this. They can take hits harder, and that means blunt force trauma that throws them to the ground. They're more likely to be able to take that with less broken bones and less damaged organs. They're able to take gunshots, they're able to take knife wounds with a higher chance of survival and a better chance of recovery. They're going to get less broken bones, they're going to get less organ damage. And it's because they're going to have better padding, better muscle density around everything for cushioning. They're going to have a lot denser of bones, and dense bones are harder to break, they're harder to penetrate to get to organs. So doing the heaviest type of powerlifting you could possibly do is going to give you the best bone density, it's going to give you the best muscle density over any other style of training. It's going to give you a better chance of surviving physical trauma to your body, and explosions, falls, gunshots are about as severe a trauma as you can get. So you're looking at a higher survival rate. And then the other factor, even with that to consider, is the mental health factor. We have a ridiculously and unacceptably high suicide rate among soldiers who are veterans of our current conflicts in the Middle East over in the U.S. They're just unacceptably high. And I'm not going to name any names, but yeah, I had a friend who was discharged during his second tour for attempting to kill himself over in Iraq. And I know that for me, as I've discussed in other videos, for me, heavy weight training is extremely therapeutic. And military personnel, particularly those in combat zones, undergo some of the worst psychological stress that a human being can be subjected to. And a lot of these people are very tough people. These are tough men and women, but at the end of the day, they're still human. And the human mind can only handle so much trauma. So anything you can do that's therapeutic or to relieve stress is going to be helpful there. And therefore, the heavyweight training even has the potential to save lives beyond just the immediate physical. It can save lives due to things like depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and suicide among military personnel. So I would recommend it even for that purpose as well. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you next time.